How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi, host of Tier Talk, and I want to talk about the closing of Riker's Island. Should have did this video a little while ago, but it took me a while to read through the 149 pages worth of. Well, I'll just keep my mouth shut on what I think it is. But I want to discuss my perspective on it, and my perspective isn't just my own. I posted a query, if you will, about the closing of Riker's Island, so I'm going to build off some of their responses. And what's cool is these are frontline responses. These are experts because they work the front line and they're the ones that actually know what's going on. So, guys, if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. It's a channel for the frontline experts out there, for those that work in the field, not those that are far removed from it. And please hit that bell when you subscribe so you're notified every time I put up a video. Stand by for my sponsors. I'll be right back.
I wanted to attend a university that had an intelligence program. I wanted to look at problems different. I wanted to increase my critical thinking abilities. AMU offered those avenues to expand. Obtaining your degree as an adult, you're actually paying yourself and investing in yourself. You can't put a dollar on it. It's priceless. It's something that can never be taken away from you.
American Military University. Learn from the leader.
Being a corrections officer takes its toll on even the strongest individuals. The constant need to perform at the highest level, putting your life at risk in a hostile environment, and the mental scarring of traumatic experiences. 31% of corrections officers show symptoms of PTSD, and 66% of people with PTSD also suffer with a substance abuse problem. The Transformations First Responders program is specially designed to help veterans and officers heal from the grips of addiction and PTSD in a comfortable, supportive, and serene setting. You are not alone. If you have questions about the services we offer, give us a call at 866-762-8454 to get more information on this affordable and life-changing program.
Hi, thanks for coming back again. My name is Anthony Gangi. The show is Tier Talk. Please subscribe, hit that bell. Let's get yourself that notification. Okay, so I never worked at Riker's Island, so my experience at Riker's Island is rather limited, of course, so that's why I had to do something unique, something that's not being done when we decide to issue changes, which is go to the front line, because it's not being done. And what happens is you go to the front line, and the front line will tell you, hey, these are the concerns that you have, and this is how we can address them, because they'll come up with solutions. But they'll come up with solutions that are based on experience and solutions that will actually benefit the safety and security of the facility. So again, I never worked at Riker's Island, but I am involved in the correctional system, been involved for 15 years, so I do have a little bit of experience in the system, but I've never worked at Rikers. So because I never worked at Rikers, I went to those on the front line and asked them, is the closing of Rikers a good idea? Now, these are people that work right on the front line, those involved in security, those involved in rehabilitative services, and universally, the answer was, it's a bad idea. Now, these are the people that work on the front line. These are the people that should be the ones that you go to when you have any questions about what's going on in Riker's Island, because I went totally objective. I went to security, and I also went to those that deal with rehabilitative services. So, with that in mind, I wanted to read the 149 pages. Most of it's political, to be honest with you, but I wanted to give it a read, give it its respect, because maybe, maybe they're onto something. So let me read it. That's fair, right? And that's funny because that's something that they're not doing, right? I'm willing to listen to what they have to say, which is rather unique in this world because no one's listening to what we have to say, or in this case, Frontline. I mean, look at the changes that Frontline has gone through at Rikers, especially the limit on solitary confinement. I hate that term. We talked about that. We know what it is. It's administrative segregation, or it's restrictive housing. Ain't nobody pissing in the dark. Those extreme cases should never be used to generalize the system and then hold what works accountable for those extremes. That's the scary part. And so far, the changes that have been made in Riker's Island have been one-sided and biased, and has put our heroes at risk. Those that sacrifice themselves every day to work in that system. And that's not a job for everyone. And the least we could do is show support and pass laws that protect them. Well, let's be fair, protect them as well, because they're not being protected at all. So just a couple of things. Okay, so certain things that she pointed out, or they pointed out in this 149-page, whatever you want to call it, are why the system has to be changed and her ideas of what they're going to do, what they're going to implement. Well, one thing is they talk about how hard it is to get into Rikers Island. How hard is it to get in Rikers Island? How much of a hassle it is for the people that want to come to visit. Well, if it's hard to get into Rikers Island, it's also hard to get out of Rikers Island. And that's why correctional facilities are built. That's why jails are built. That's why prisons are built. Because they're not supposed to be easily attained. You're not supposed to easily get into them. You're not supposed to easily get out of them. So that's actually a good thing, that the jail is very hard to get out of, which means it's also very hard to get into. So it kind of balances out the security concerns, right? People that are looking to break in to break someone out, and people are looking to break out. So look about how it protects custody, because in case someone wanted to break an inmate out, it's very hard to get there, right? And look how it protects the public, because it's very hard to get the inmates out. So right there, I'm thinking like, wow, that's definitely someone who really doesn't understand why we have a criminal justice system, to hold people accountable, yes, but also public safety, and the safety of those that work there. So when that statement was put in play, such a hard trip to get into, there's a reason behind it. It's a jail. It's supposed to be hard to get into. It's supposed to be hard to get out of. Also, she said that eventually they like to break it down into a museum and show the struggle of what the inmates had to overcome, the history of unprofessionalism and misconduct, or whatever it is that she's trying to get across. I'm paraphrasing here. But you know what else came about in Rikers Island in 1993 at the George Metuchen Detention Center, GMDC? A threat to public safety, a threat to anybody who works behind the wall. It's called the United Blood Nation. And man, did they grow. And their history is in Rikers Island. Their growth is in Rikers Island. Are we going to showcase that history? And the attacks that happened to law enforcement, or the attacks that happened to random people on the subway, because that was their initiation was to give people $1.50s, because that originated. Omar Porte, Leonard McKenzie, 9-3 Gangster happened right in 93. GMDC, George Metuchen Detention Center. That's part of Rikers history as well. And that history, that put the public at risk. I wonder if you're going to mention that, because that's a big part of Rikers history as well. You got to be fair. I want to also cover one more other thing. I know we're so focused on rehabilitation, but we have to remember people have to want to rehabilitate. You can't force rehabilitation on anyone. And you're mentioning having jails that have limited barriers. Well, what protects staff? I know you want direct supervision, but sometimes those barriers are put into place because there are certain people that don't want to rehabilitate, that are a threat. And then when you limit those barriers, what are you doing? You're limiting the chance for us to protect not just each other, but the population. Inmates sometimes can unite. And without those right barriers in place, we can't protect anyone. So limited to the barriers, you're changing part of what the system is about. There is no rehabilitation without safety and security, and there is no rehabilitation unless people want to be rehabilitated. And I'm sorry, let me add one more thing. I know you mentioned that you wanted to open up 5 jails in the communities of the 5 boroughs. You know what's funny? People always look bad at the system, thinking that we don't do enough. And I work behind the wall, and I know we do everything we can to rehabilitate the many. And sometimes that means that we have to remove the threats that don't want to be rehabilitated, and we need the means to do that so we can focus on the many. But the problem is not so much the work that goes on behind the wall. The problem is the fact that when the work is done and the inmates get released, nobody wants them. They talk such a game from the distance. But when it's time for those inmates to hit the communities, nobody wants them. So this idea of making these 5 small prisons or jails in the communities around them, well, maybe there was a reason why Rikers was on an island. Maybe because there was an attempt and nobody wanted that in their community. So I'm tired for the people bastardizing the work that goes behind the wall, because we give 100% effort. Trust me, 100% from staff, from both civilian and custody, only to get bastardized by those who don't see what we do. And when those inmates are released, oh, not in my community, it's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. Good luck on your dream. Anthony Gangi, host of Tear Talk. Stay safe, guys.